Jason Nolf, welcome to the Wrestling Changed My Life podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of it on Instagram and Twitter, and I've been wondering when you're going to ask me to come on. So
Here we
I'm
go,
excited
baby.
about it.
So you said you just got done training today, and
Yep.
you got practice again at 2. So, kind of fill us in. What have you been up to over the last couple of months, and what does your schedule look like on a kind of a daily and weekly basis?
Yeah. So I competed at the World Cup wrestling wise. So I have a couple of different things going on. I have wrestling, starting to train a little bit MMA, and then we launched our new company, Athletes Ocean. So wrestling wise, I competed at the World Cup in December, and I won my one match against Georgia. I got a tech fall, and then I ended up losing to the Iranian, in the finals of the World Cup, and that match kind of hurt a little bit, stung a little bit. But then I competed again in February in Croatia, and I was able to take out the number one Iranian guy in the finals. He took world bronze the last 2 years, so that was a good win for me. And now I'm just training for the U.S. Open and getting ready for that, and then the Final X and the World Championship. So that's what I've been doing wrestling wise. And then I went to Bo Nichols' fight in Vegas, and every time I'm around Bo, in the fight scene, it makes me want to fight more and more. So I'm starting to train a little bit. So that's what I was doing this morning, was doing some jujitsu. This week I've been training, boxing and jujitsu and some other
Gi or no
MMA
gi?
stuff. So no gi.
No gi.
I can't be
Okay.
doing that. Can't be doing that gi stuff.
That's weird, isn't it? When you get in there and the
So
guys are pulling on your sleeves and your collar.
yeah. Yeah. And then Athletes Ocean, we just launched 3 months ago. It's a social platform for wrestling technique. So it's free to sign up, and then there are in-app purchases like instructional videos or subscription groups. I have my own subscription group where, I charge a monthly fee, but I post a video pretty much every single day, 2 to 5 minutes on technique or mindset or competition breakdowns, something like that. So
Wow,
I've
that's
been
awesome.
working hard on that. Yep.
So how did that start, that idea?
So a couple years ago, well, it was about 2 years ago today, me and one of my old teammates from Penn State, Gino Morelli, got together, and we wanted to create an online platform for technique. And we thought we could create a pretty cool platform that builds a community around wrestling and, other martial arts as well, moving forward. And we just kind of started brainstorming different ideas and started to build. We added a couple guys to the team, and then built the platform and have been working hard on it. That's like one of my biggest priorities right now in my life is working on that and trying to grow the company and get athletes involved, because it's a really good way for, senior level athletes or even college athletes now with NIL to get paid for wrestling. And,
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's like I post a lot of wrestling technique online now, and some people are hesitant to post technique because they think they're giving away their secrets. But honestly, it helps me learn when I teach more, and it gives value to my followers. And, wrestling match, it's not just technique. You gotta have the strength, the technique, the timing, the speed, the will, the heart, everything. There's so much that goes into a wrestling match where even if my opponents know my technique, it doesn't really matter for me. I still feel like I'm going to go win and dominate. So that's just
Wow.
been kind of my mindset with it. And yeah, I mean, if they really want to break down my technique, they can watch my matches. So, um, having an opportunity to monetize my technique has been something that's I've taken a lot of effort into recently.
It's cool that you still post technique on Instagram though, because I see your technique videos all the time, and I'm not like, I wouldn't say a technique junkie like back in the day, but I do watch yours, and it's fun to watch you break it down like that. So even though you have this app where you could be getting money for it, you're still letting out some content, which definitely is a marketing best practice.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's another mistake people make, is they think if you give something for free, that no one will ever pay for anything. But I think it's the contrary. I think the more free stuff you give out, the more people want to support you. And so that I've been trying to basically, for my subscription group, I'll put out like 3 to 5 minute videos, 2 to 5 minute videos, and then I'll edit like a 30-second clip from that and put that on Instagram. And if people want to see the full clip where I really explain it in detail, they can go to my Ocean. But I mean, Instagram, it's mainly for, like, I add a sound to it, and You know, it's a lot shorter attention span on Instagram because people want to just scroll through. So they don't, when people go to Instagram, they're not sitting down to watch a 5-minute video, but when they're going to our platform, they're going to learn and get better at wrestling. So
Right.
that's kind of the differences.
They're pausing it. They're zoom, checking things out. And when you mention the, like, kind of you're doing technique and you're breaking it down, it's not just like you're doing one-off things. Cause I looked at your website and you have I don't know if this is still even active, but there's on there, you can subscribe to your technique. And one of them's your defense, one of them's your offense. And it has all your series on there. And it's like everything from an overhook. And then there's a dresser dump from an inside tie. So I really love how you systematize it. When do you think you kind of like took a step back from your wrestling and thought about the systems of how you operate your offense and your defense? Was that during college or after the fact?
I would say I really started focusing on like my defense. I did a little bit my junior year when I hurt my knee, because I couldn't really wrestle offensively the second half of the season after I tore a couple ligaments in my knee. And so I really focused on, my baseline defense and everything like that, and then like thinking more methodically. But really, I'd say like I made the biggest jump going into freestyle, because with folk style wrestling, you can wrestle so crazy, and I don't know why more people don't, because you see guys that have like really good gas tanks and they're really good technically. If they just went out there and wrestled aggressively and aren't afraid to make mistakes and just let it fly, even if you give up a couple takedowns, it doesn't really matter. You can roll across your back. Somebody that does it that I think maybe does a little bit too crazy is Bryce Andonian from Virginia Tech. He rolls to his back a little too quick, but wrestling that pace, I mean, he's found success in it, and I found a lot of success just by wrestling aggressively in college. But I think that when it comes to freestyle, you have to wrestle a little bit more strategically, because, if I shoot a double leg and I'm not paying attention to how I'm finishing, I might get flipped through and give up 4 points. That's happened to me, and I've lost a couple of matches because of that. So finding like I've used my technique a lot more in freestyle, and so in that way I've had to like think about it more methodically and strategically.
I mean, even your low single, I mean, you hit a lot of that left hand low single, and you got to come right up with it in freestyle, right? I mean, folk style, there's all kinds of different situations. And so you kind of see folk style is more forgiving, which I actually hear a lot of like the pundits say the opposite. And obviously you would know, so I trust you, but because they say you can text someone in freestyle in like 20 seconds, but I get what you're saying though, right? Because you can be way more kind of open with your skills, rolling to your back, trying different things. And the match is so long, you really can wear someone out and battle back. Whereas freestyle, it goes like that.
Yeah. I mean, you saw it a lot at the Nationals. I mean, Bryce Andoni, another example against Levi Haynes. Bryce caught him to his back, and he was up 6-0, almost pinned Levi, but then you have 6 more minutes left in the match, and Levi was able to, keep getting takedown after takedown, and ended up, pinning Bryce at the end of the match. So it's such a long match. Even though Levi made that mistake, he just kept wrestling. And I definitely for sure think I think that folk style is a lot more fun because of that, because you can wrestle a little bit crazier, and it's more like effort based, I would say, than something like freestyle is.
Yeah, and it's another guy immediately who I thought of when you said that was Shane Van Ness. Man, even that, it might have been Thursday night. I think it was Thursday night, or maybe even the first round. He was down like
the first round.
Was it when he was down like with like 40 seconds left?
Yeah. He was down 8-1 going into the third period, and then just started like rallying off points. And I'm like, you could just do that the whole match. And because Shane's like one of the most talented people I know, even watching him from high school, into college now, when he wants to score points, he scores points. And, even against Pinheiro Johnson in the second round, he took him down to his back, and then, he ended up giving up like 2 or 3 takedowns throughout the match, but he kept scoring. He kept thinking about scoring. And even though he gave up those takedowns, he scored more points at the end of the match. So, I think that the more confident, I think that Shane gained a lot of confidence through that tournament, knowing that it doesn't really matter if I give up a score, because I can go back and just wrestle hard, especially if it's in the first 20, 30 seconds of the match. It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Oh, we definitely saw Shane Van Ness jump levels at that tournament. It was so fun to see, because all year we had been hearing about him, and then boom, comes out and takes a third. And Wow, what a tournament. Wrestled with a ton of heart. Just during my research, I found that you kind of had a breakthrough win like that. It was against Darian Cruz as a freshman. And you
Yeah,
said,
that was a while ago.
what about, and I don't even know if you remember it, and it was from I found an old article from your high school town. But what about that win made you gave you that confidence boost or that confidence jump?
Um, I think it was a big win for me for sure. Like looking back, I was always like pretty confident in myself up until that point. I hadn't lost in high school, but I definitely knew Darian was going to be the toughest guy that I was going to face. So I prepared for him all year. At my wrestling club, one of my wrestling coaches, Isaac Greeley, runs the Mat Factory Wrestling Club. We basically scouted Darian all year and was like some of the things that Darian was really good at was wrestling on the edge. He said never stop wrestling when you're on the edge because he'll try to like run around you or like he'll relax and then I mean Darian's super fast. Wrestling Thomas Gilman at the NCAAs and the semis was able to score on the edge, and that's how he ended up winning his national title. So I was ready for that and just wrestled hard and ended up getting the victory in the ride out. But yeah, I mean, winning a match like that definitely showed me that, I had what it takes to compete at that time at the state level. And, Darian was maybe number one in the country. So at the national level as well.
So what was that match, like a PIAA high school match, or where was that at?
Yeah, I was in the semifinals
Freshman year?
my freshman year at the state tournament.
Wow. That had to be mega match. That's crazy. I didn't know when it happened or what the situation was, but wow, that's awesome. And when you look at your PIAA career, like what other matches stand out for you as big turning points in your career?
I would say like one of the biggest ones was my sophomore year. I had two big matches my sophomore year. I actually wrestled Nikki Roberts at a tournament. And it was like a Southmoreland wrestling tournament. It was like over Christmas, and we were wrestling at 120, and I was a little bit undersized. I ended up cutting down to 113 later in the year, and but I was wrestling Nikki Roberts, and I think he was just way better than me. But I think that I was able to win because I just believed in myself and, worked hard. But I think technically, like, he had a lot more skills. He was in on my legs all match. I think I ended up getting like a 4-point move in overtime to win. But, wrestling through that, he was number one in the country again. So that was kind of my next big win, and just furthered my belief in myself. And then I cut down to 113 for the state tournament, and I wrestled Ryan Deal in the semis again. They always gave me like the best guy in the semis finals.
Did you wrestle him before?
Yeah, he had beat me a couple times before that. I don't know if I'd beat him at that point. I think I maybe broke his elbow one time. I had like a lateral drop in a summer tournament. But I can't remember if that was him or not. But yeah, he was like definitely a really tough opponent, and he had just transferred in from like West Virginia or something. And he just kind of like dominated me in my match. I lost like 5-3, but there was never really ever moment where I was going to win the match. So that was my first loss that I took in high school, and that like
first and only.
me.
First and only.
Yeah, first and only. So that crushed me like pretty bad. I remember being backstage crying, and my coach was like, "Hey, keep like basically like get over it. It's time to move on. We got to go take third." And that's something I've always like taken pride in, is like always wrestling back. I think it's super important to wrestle back and never quit. So I got my act together, ended up wrestling back and taking third. And then I remember like I was like more motivated than ever, because I at that point I still like I didn't really have much faith in God, and like I didn't really have a relationship with God at that point. I believed in God, but my value kind of came from wrestling. So I remember like after my freshman year, I went back and everybody was congratulating me at school, and I had all this hype around me and stuff. And it wasn't like I was the coolest kid in school or anything, but I remember going to class or going to school Monday morning after the states, and I was just so defeated. Like people were still congratulating me and stuff, but it just wasn't the same. And I was like, I'm not gonna like win these awards, and I'm not gonna get this recognition, and I can't be a 4-timer now. That was my goal. And so I was down, and I had a good friend, give me have some good conversations with me. His name was Dimitri. We had some good conversations, and I was able to, work through that. But then I was motivated more than ever to get better. And I think that was after that year, I made like bigger jumps than I ever had before, and stopped relying so much like on funk wrestling, and like, because basically most of my wrestling was, when people get to my legs, rolling through funk rolls and everything like that. And I made it a mission to be more offensive and start dominating matches. And so after that, I didn't take another loss in high school until I wrestled Tyler Berger at the Flow Nationals in the finals after my junior year. And he ended up beating me there. So I think after every loss that I've had, I've just made such big growths. And I don't know why, because I feel like in a day-to-day basis, I work harder than anybody else, and that I always like give my 100%. But for some reason, I think like, having a loss is really beneficial, because even though it stinks in the moment, you're able to like identify things that you need to get better at, even more so than when you win.
Yeah,
So
it's like in that moment, like in that Monday morning after your sophomore year, like there's no lower point than, because Sunday is a little bit, kind of still at the tournament. Maybe you're driving back, but then Monday you're back in the swing of things, and it all sets in, and that can last for a day or for weeks or months for some people. How long did it last for you think?
probably about like 4 or 5 days to a week. I typically I have like a pretty like short memory when it comes to like competing. Like I think that it's never going to go away, but then it does. And now it's a lot easier. Like, it's honestly probably harder. Like I take losses really hard, now, but, I get over them quicker because I remember like where my value is, in Jesus. And, it allows me to like not put so much pressure on myself, and me to compete more freely, and just realize that, it's a competition, and there's going to be a winner and a loser. And, I want to be the winner every time. But that hasn't been the case. So, but it's time to, if I want to get better, I can't be feeling sorry for myself and pouting and everything like that. I just got to go work and try to learn and get better. And, that's what I've been doing. So,
And when you say get better, I mean, to me, I think about maybe you have a loss and you look at a specific position, and you go back and really focus in on that minute detail. I got to imagine though, guys at your level across the country, every time you go into a practice, are you going in with a plan and like something you're specifically working on for that week or for that practice?
yeah, I would think like the biggest thing I think about when I'm trying to get better is, sometimes it's a position, um, like, when wrestling Kyle Dake, like I had a hard time finishing when I got to his legs, because he goes to his chest lock. So like that's a position that I work on to make sure, that I get the leg in the air right away, and that I'm able to finish those leg attacks, because I think that's the biggest game changer for me. But then it's also like, strategic wise, like, am I controlling the center of the mat? Am I wrestling on the edge? Am I giving up a push out when I could be going down out of bounds grounded?
Mm-hmm.
So different positions like that, like, and just like, I mean, that's just repetition, like getting used to, I really started training hard wrestling freestyle a couple years ago. So I may have like 2 to 3 years of like, solely freestyle wrestling experience, and I don't have that many tournaments under my belt. So the more tournaments I go to and wrestle high level guys, that tournament in Croatia was a really big tournament for me, because in my past I had lost a lot of close matches. Like, if I won, I pretty much tech falled the guy, but if it was a close match, I won some of them, but I lost a lot of the important ones, against like Dake and Burroughs, and the Iranian, stuff like that. So I ended up winning, like in Croatia, I won like 3 or 4 matches by 1 point or by criteria. So being able to close out those matches, I mean, just that in itself, giving me good experience doing that, was really valuable for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that helps increase my confidence as well.
That Iranian final was such a gritty win. Like that was a battle.
Yeah, I think that like, see, I learned a lot from that too, because I definitely, I never felt like in danger, except for one time, when he did get to my leg. I ended up doing a good job wrestling out of it and giving up a push out. But I think like in the last 30 seconds, 40 seconds, I was wrestling on my heels too much. And that's why I looked like I was so tired, is because I was wrestling on my heels. But I think when you wrestle on your toes and you continue to attack, and, you know, it doesn't have to be like shot after shot after shot, but, you know, being aggressive in the hand fight and moving forward, hitting fakes and stuff like that, that in itself gets the other guy more tired, for one, and it keeps you less tired, because because it's all mindset. It's not about like what's actually happening. Most people think, oh, if I back away, you know, maybe I'll get less tired, but it's actually the opposite. The more aggressive you are, the less tired you get. So for me,
And in hearing you break this down, it makes me think like every NCAA stud who we have, you know, seeing, and you were, you know, one of the best coming out of NCAAs, but it takes a good couple of years to get used to the freestyle, right? I mean, it's crazy to think about it, but I mean, there's so many nuances of it. And I'm talking like when you're in those matches against Iranian's first team member, like they've been doing only freestyle forever. You know, a lot of our Americans, we catch up pretty fast, but there is that learning curve though.
yeah, 100%. I mean, even a lot of the U.S. guys that I'm competing against have a lot more freestyle experience than me. So I feel like I've done a good job to like catch up. But I know what's really good for me is I'm not even close to like being my best self, like to my potential. So I have so much to learn and get better. And, you know, I'm already like, you know, wrestling with the top guys in the world. You know, in the Croatia tournament, you know, beating the world bronze and the world silver was in that bracket as well. So, you know, being at the top of the world and not even being, you know, close to my potential yet is a pretty good thing for me. So I'm excited to keep learning. And yeah, it's definitely interesting. I definitely I like freestyle more than I ever have. I like wrestling parterre a lot. I like going for turns every time I get on top. And so that's, you know, when you can get a turn in a match, it really
That's such a game changer.
It's a game changer. You get a takedown in a turn, instead of up 2-0, you're up 4-0. Now your opponent has to take you down twice, or, you know, take you down and turn you. So makes a big difference.
That's what you see. I did a multi-part documentary on John Smith, and that's when I watch all of his matches, which you naturally do when you're doing a project like that. You really see when he gets into like 89, 90. Yeah, he's doing the low single. Yeah, he's doing the duck pass, but then he's really opening up the lace. And like then he was just unstoppable, you know? So like you see the greats add stuff on like that. And the parterre, no doubt, is probably the biggest differentiator at that high level.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. And on the vice versa, you know, if you do give up a takedown, pay attention to like where you're at. If you're close to the out of bounds, you know, you can drop your head and, you know, so you go out of bounds, and really working on your, you know, your gut defense and your lace defense. If you can't get turned, then it's going to be hard for people to score a lot of points on you.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, it's cool to hear you break it down. And you also, the thing I'm thinking of in the back of my mind is you went to see Bo Nickel fight. Like what's going to pull you in, man, is, you know, is it going to be obviously 2024 you're focused on, you know, and the 2028's in LA. But Jason Nolf with 4 years of MMA could also be the UFC champ by 2028. So it'll be interesting to see. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely am open to fighting in the future. I haven't made a decision yet on whether I am going to 100% or not, but yeah, I'm just focused on the world championships this year and the Olympics next year. And then, but I'm preparing in case I do want to fight. You know, I'm training my striking and my jiu-jitsu and my submission grappling, everything like that. So I'll be ready if I want to do it. So
have a little foundation already laid, you know, getting things going. So talk to us about what it's like to go to a UFC event where one of your best friends is competing. Would you guys get there like Friday? Are you at the weigh-ins? Like what's the weekend like?
Yeah, so Bo and Anthony Cassar were out there, I think, on Sunday night. So we stay out there all week. I got there on Tuesday night, and yeah, we just I mean, Bo has to do a ton of media stuff. He has to do you know, the press conference, the ceremonial weigh-in. He's got to do extra media. I mean, Bo's like one of the most hyped UFC fighters ever, you know, as a prospect especially. So, you know, everybody wants to interview him and get his thoughts. It's fun being out there. It's pretty chill. You know, we get an Airbnb and we play like shuffleboard at Catan, and but I think like I love the hype, and one of my favorite parts about the UFC and what gets me so hype is, the crowd and the walkouts, and Bruce Buffer. I think it's sick when Bruce Buffer's like screaming in your name, right in your face. And I get so hyped when that happens. So that's something that you don't really get in freestyle. There's not many. That's the one thing I miss about Folkstyle is the big crowds. I mean, NCAA was packed. Rec Hall's packed every time. Bryce Jordan Center's always packed. Pretty much anywhere Penn State goes, it's packed. So that's one of my favorite things about competing is competing in front of a big crowd with the lights on and getting your walkout song. And so watching Bo walk out into the ring and then Bruce Buffer announce his name, I mean, that there's not a whole lot of things that are cooler than that. So
Man,
that's something like I have a couple walkout songs that I like visualize myself walking out to and smiling and dancing, getting ready. I think that I think my personality will show a little bit more in fighting if I choose to do that than it does in wrestling, because wrestling I kind of I was pretty serious, like business like, but I think I would have a little bit more fun, at least like with the walkout and everything like that. I think it's not really it's not very common in wrestling for people to be like dancing while they walk out and stuff like that, but it is a little bit more in fighting. So
what would the songs be? Top secret.
I'll have to, yeah, they're top secret.
Okay.
I got a few options.
Okay. Okay. Now I respect that. It's the walkout is an amazing part in the fans. I mean, it's just, I was thinking about the other day because I love Chael's YouTube show. I love Bisping's YouTube show. And I'm like, it's just so cool that UFC is a mega sport, just like the NFL. And basically it's just a lot of grappling guys. And like, we finally now have a sport that we can all get behind, because as much as I love wrestling, last weekend was awesome, but we have another month to the U.S. Open, and then there's another big break until Final X, and so UFC, there's so much going on, and there's such a high level of competition. So it's just awesome how mainstream it is.
Yeah, wrestlers are starting to take over and grapplers. The Dagestanians, and then now that there's a new wave of Americans, we got a lot of Americans that are signed with like Bellator and stuff like that. I think we need to. It'd be cool to see them fight in the UFC as well. Just because the UFC is a little bit more popular. And but yeah, I think that pretty soon we're gonna have a lot more American wrestlers kind of taking over the Dagestanis. I love the Dagestan. Yeah, I love the Dagestanians actually. Me and Kyle Snyder went over to Dagestan to visit, and we wrestled in a couple matches while we were out there. But it was definitely cool to see how nice everybody was. Sedulaev took us to his hometown, and they're riding horses, and Gadisov was there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun being out there. But they were super nice people and very hospitable. But we still want to take over.
And I think it's important for the UFC to remain mainstream in the US is that we have American champs. I mean, that's, I love the Dagestanians like you, but let's be real. It's gonna be tough to sell a pay-per-view if there's not a lot of Americans in there. And certainly we're seeing that push. I definitely want to get to the Dagestan trip. It's one of the number one things I couldn't wait to ask you about. But before we get there, did you see that the Belarusian who beat Dake just signed with Bellator?
Yeah, I see he's fighting 145.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
I saw featherweight. I'm like, featherweight? What the heck is featherweight? And I saw a comment that said 145. I'm like,
tell me Coker didn't get duped on that. There's no way he's making 145. That's crazy.
No. Yeah.
I'm crushed though, because that match to me, now I'm sure you knew who this guy was before that match. I talked to Brian Medlin, who's as astute about international technique as anyone, and he said that, he had that the Belarusian had beaten Sidakov before and had some really interesting things he does. But I mean, what were your thoughts going into that Dake Belarusian match? And I'm forgetting the guy's name, excuse me, but back at the Olympics, because that was pretty crazy to see that.
Yeah, I didn't know the guy. I still haven't seen him wrestle since. I mean, I guess he's focusing on fighting now. My thoughts were that he just kind of like out wrestled Dake in those positions that Dake is typically good at. And I think Dake maybe was getting a little I think he tried to like force a couple things a little bit too soon. and just thought that he was better in that position, and he wasn't as better as he thought he was in those positions against him. I think that Dake is better in those positions against a lot of people. But I think, trying to force some action instead of just wrestling methodically, trying to get his points back, after being thrown for 4 right away, kind of got a little antsy. And I think if he would have wrestled like smart and wrestled back, try to get to his legs and take him down, and I think he could have ended up beating him. But I think the style matchup just wasn't ideal for that match to do what he was trying to do. But yeah, obviously he was able to wrestle back and get the bronze because I think that opponent ended up beating Chamizo in the semis. So
yeah, no,
it was definitely interesting.
It was, man. It was a crazy match because Dake is usually so well. I don't know if it was a seatbelt. He kind of came up and it was, I don't remember the exact position, but it was kind of a shocking to see that. And even more shocking at the time because I didn't know who the heck the guy was. But, I talked to Brian Medlin and he goes, oh, yeah, we knew about the guy. We were watching him. So, but anyway, he's into Bellator now and the rematch probably will never happen, which brings us to Dagestan. So I remember seeing the videos of you and Snyder over there. Snyder's riding horses and Sajulayev. I mean, take us through the whole event. Where did you guys go when you first landed?
So we actually we had like the Varner was supposed to go with me and Kyle, and he ended up getting COVID like the day we were leaving. So he ended up not being able to travel. So it was just me, Kyle, and his videographer Tyler from Rudis, and we just traveled, and we had like the craziest travel. We had so many delays. We would take off and then we'd land again. And we ended up getting, we had such a long flight, and then we got to Moscow, and our next flight to Mahachkala. Yeah, Mahachkala was the next morning. So we wanted to just stay in the hotel because we were tired of traveling all day. And these guys are like, yeah, we're going to pick you up and we're going to take you to eat, and then we're going to get you to the hotel. We'll take you back in the morning. So like, all right. So we get there, and like Sajulayev and his whole crew are there, and they put coats on our back because we don't have coats. They take all of our bags from us, and they're just like trying to take really good care of us, which is really cool. And then we ended up, they put me in like a Range Rover without Kyle. So they put Kyle in this one car with Tyler, and then they put me in the other car, and then we're driving for like an hour and a half. And I'm like, all right, I'm in Moscow. I don't have anybody with me. I don't know what's happening. And I'm like, am I being kidnapped? Like, I don't know. and so I had pretty good trust in them, but I still I was in a place I'd never been before. So I was a little bit nervous, and we end up like pulling up to this like huge boat. And about an hour and a half later, we pull up to this huge boat, and they rented out this entire like cruise ship for us. Not a cruise ship. It was like, it was massive, and it was like a restaurant on the boat, and it was all for us. And
wow,
we get there, and there's all like the Russian national team guys there, like Goyev, and I can't remember who else was there, but
like Sadakov, was he there?
Sidakov wasn't there.
No.
But I think like the 70 kilo guy was there, and we ended up going to the boat took off, and we're eating, and we eat. It's like 2.5 hours past, and we get to like a point where we kind of like stop, and I'm like, oh yeah, I think we're done, like we're here. And then we ask somebody, and they're like, yeah, we're halfway, we're turning around now. So we ended up being on the boat for like 5 hours, and we were so tired and like ready to go to bed, but we were obviously, we wanted to be good guests, so we were like still like trying to be energetic and everything, but we were so tired. We ended up like getting back a while later, and then we flew to Mahachkala the next morning. And it's funny over there because we like bypassed all the security and everything. Like they're like, yeah, just come with us. Like in Russia, they were just like, if we were with the wrestlers, like we always like went past the security. We didn't have to like check our bags and stuff. So
really,
it was I mean, they checked our bags, but I don't know like what they were doing. And
so was Sajulayev fly to Dagestan with you guys?
No, I think he flew separate because they had like a wrestle ball tournament. They have like a new sport called rest ball over there where they basically like play basketball, but you're allowed to tackle.
And so Sajulayev like does this?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
about injuries?
all the
What?
wrestlers do it. Yeah. Yeah, that's like one of their
Wow.
favorite sports. And yeah, when we were in so we landed in Dagestan, and then we were like driving like hour and a half back and forth between places. Like we went to Passivert that night, and then the next morning drove back to Mahachkala, and it was like I think just like everybody wanted to see Kyle mainly, and I was with Kyle, so they were just taking us all kinds of places, and the whole time we never knew like what was going to happen. Like where are we going? We don't know. We ate like 8 times a day. I was like, I don't know. I had a match on Tuesday, and and Monday morning they like take us to this breakfast to like get everything like, and I'm like, I can't probably eat a whole lot. And they goes, weight problem, no problem. And so I was like, well, when are weigh-ins? So they're like, oh, they're in an hour and a half. And I'm like 8 pounds over, so I'm not gonna make weight. And they're like, oh, it's no problem. So I
They'll
ended
wave
up
it off for
wrestling.
you. They'll wave it
Yeah,
off.
I ended up wrestling Sabalov. And neither of us probably made weight, but we were probably about the same weight at the time. But that was a good match. Ended up like tearing a ligament in my knee again, wrestling him because he bent my knee so hard. But yeah, it was good. It was just like sun up to sundown. We were doing stuff, and we never stopped. So it was like the most fun but most exhausting week. Probably the best wrestling trip I've ever been on. I mean, we were going on helicopters. We'd go into stores and they'd be like, grab whatever you want. We know the owners. Like, you want a suit? Like, here's a suit. I was getting DMs from these like suit shops, like, hey, come to my suit shop. I'll give you a free suit, whatever you want. And I'm like, I don't have time because they're taking us everywhere. And at a certain point, they fed us so much food. I was like, I had to stop. Like I think we ate so much like sheep or something, and I got so sick of sheep, I had to start turning it down, and I felt bad. But they're like, no, eat, and they put it on my plate, and I'm like, I cannot eat it. Give me like a beef steak, and I'll eat that. Give me some ice cream.
Yeah.
Like I need to eat some food that I'm used to because I was starting to get sick, and but yeah, I mean, we'd go to a restaurant, and then we'd go right to another restaurant right after, and it was pretty wild. So
How many people knew Snyder over there?
everybody, like we were in the airport, everybody knew him. Like even people that weren't wrestlers, like they're like, Snyder. And he's like, hey. And by the last night, we ended up getting back to the hotel in Moscow before we were taking off back to the United States. And I remember we were walking in the lobby and this guy was like, Snyder. And it was like 2 a.m. and Kyle was ignoring them. And because Kyle never ignores anybody, but I was like, he started ignoring this guy, and I was like, what are you doing? You got to go say hi to him. And he goes, all right. And then he went and said hi to the guy. So, but he was done. He was
That's
being
what it's
grumpy.
like for NFL players every day, like NBA players. Isn't that crazy to think about that?
Yeah, it could definitely get exhausting.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have a normal face that a lot of people don't recognize.
Well,
because I don't look like.
You get your first world title, you go back over there, and you're going to be mobbed everywhere, man.
Yeah, in Russia, maybe not in America though.
Yeah, no. When that's crazy, like even our great American champions in America, you can walk through O'Hare Airport, no problem, right? But
yeah,
that's crazy. That's how big of a wrestling culture they have. Now, are you guys? It sounds like a lot of it is it's relationship building, it's camaraderie. Are you also going to like the Dagestani wrestling school and doing workouts in the morning and afternoon, or are you just sightseeing basically this trip?
We were trying to train and everything, but they were like, they didn't want us to train. I don't think they wanted us to compete either while we were there. They're like, oh, you don't have to wrestle in that match. You don't got to wrestle in the tournament. Let's go on another helicopter ride. And we're like, no, like we came to wrestle. Like right. I ended up not being able to wrestle in the tournament because I hurt my knee against Sabalov, and Kyle wasn't able to wrestle in the match because Zabrailov got sick. So he only wrestled in the tournament. So I was able to coach Kyle. But like the day before, they were like, we need all this, like everything was so relaxed the entire time. And then the day before, like, you guys can't wrestle because we didn't get like these paperwork from USA. And we're like, well, why haven't you guys told us that this entire time? Like, I thought everything was covered. And then it was like almost going to be like a big deal that we couldn't wrestle. And I think that those guys were just doing it because they didn't want us to wrestle. They wanted us to just have fun with them. So yeah,
It just shows you
we didn't train much.
maybe we're a little too serious over here, man. Like those guys are, I mean, I know when they have their training cycles, they're into it, but yeah, it's interesting to hear that's kind of the
No,
experience.
we do it the right way.
Yeah.
I don't want to live like that, like doing like, and they all they drink is tea. Like they don't drink any water. Like we'll drink a glass of water and we'll be like, can I get another water? Like,
Yeah.
you know, at a restaurant in America, they'll refill your water all the time. Like I drink like a half a gallon of water at dinner. They'll drink all tea and like sip on it. They don't drink like any water throughout the day. And I'll be like, can I get another bottle of water? They're like, you already drank all your water? I'm like, yeah, it was like 4 ounces. I'm like, give me like 4 cups of water. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I'm
Wow.
surprised they don't have more injuries.
Yeah, right. I mean, and the hydration, you'd think they'd be all over that. Now, when you went to Hazavert, that's in Chechnya, right?
I don't know.
Because that's where
I think
that's
so.
where Satiev's from, and I didn't know if you noticed any difference.
I think Chechnya was is north a little bit.
Okay, man. So
Yeah,
that's
but
wow. And did Sadulayev didn't wrestle in this tournament either, right?
no.
No, he's wrestling about twice a year. I'm guessing, right? Is it Europeans and the Worlds?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's man, what an experience though. It's cool to see one, how hospitable they are, right? And like now I got to think, if we ever have any Russians over here, we got to step it up.
I know we've talked about it. Like what we would have to do is, me and Kyle have talked about this. We'd have to like take them to a Bryce Jordan Center match and then immediately fly to Las Vegas like that night. Drive to Philadelphia, fly to Las Vegas, you know, do the Vegas scene, like take them gambling or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
And
go
then
to a UFC or something. Yeah.
Yeah, go to a UFC fight and then fly to Los Angeles, go to a Lakers game, and then fly back to State College, take them to Waffle Shop. This is exactly like how it was over there. Like everything was like hours away. We were taking like 4-hour car rides. Like it was nuts. So
How was the English?
we'd have to it wasn't good. We had a translator with us. So Kyle has been learning Russian for like 2 years now, so he's able to speak a little bit. But our translator was really good.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard well, just not heard, but I've relentlessly tried to get some of those guys on the podcast, just thinking that maybe some of them would speak a little English, and none of those guys speak English, which
No.
So podcasts are on hold right now. Wow, really cool trip, and I just really appreciate you sharing that. And so to me, it doesn't, maybe you did have this, but did you have any, like, that wasn't like a trip where you're having big jumps as much as it's just big experiences for you? Like you're not going over there and like having a Darian Cruz type moment.
No.
This was
No.
more
wrestling Sabalov. I mean, Sabalov's I think he's a world champ. So wrestling him was definitely good for me. You know, I gave up. I almost got pinned like right away in the match. He did like the weirdest thing where he reached back and grabbed my head and flipped me over. And I thought I gave up. And the match was, if you gave up 2 4-pointers, you lost no matter what the score is. So I thought I gave up a 4-pointer, but I looked back, it was only 2. I thought I was pinned, and then I ended up not being pinned. So I able to wrestle back, and still like, that was a match where, you know, I gave up a lot of points, but I also scored a lot of points. So it was still good experience for sure. But it was more of a trip for just to visit and have fun, I guess. Now we didn't know that. We thought we were going over to compete and train and stuff, and then they just took over.
Night 1 told you that this is not going to be a normal trip. The hour-and-a-half drive to a boat, 5-hour boat ride, hour-and-a-half drive back. Like that's crazy. And anytime you go overseas, you do realize that other countries, when they sit down to have a meal, it's like a 2.5-hour ordeal, right? It's a big ordeal. Whereas here, we're eating it in the car driving to work or something, you know?
Yeah. I try to spend as little time eating as possible. I try to eat my food as fast as I can so I can get back to doing what I was doing.
Right. And when you get back to PA, obviously you're in the best room in the country, and you have the coaches everyone knows. One new addition to the staff recently has been an Illinois legend, Jimmy Kennedy. Do you get to work out with him often, or is he focused mostly on the college guys?
I've worked out with him a few times. I feel bad sometimes because he just has to be the practice dummy for all the college guys. So he'll wrestle like 4 times a day. And I'm like, and then I think like by the time our practice is there, he's like pretty tired. So I let him take a break sometimes when I want to ask him to wrestle. But when I do ask him to wrestle, when I ask any of the coaches to wrestle, they're down to wrestle. So That's really good how selfless our staff is and everything like that at Penn State, because even if it sucks for them, they're willing to do it to help us out and everything like that. So, but yeah, Jimmy actually, we only wrestled once. He beat me. I was beating him 6-0, and he ended up coming back and beating me like 8-6. So that match stung too. But he's one of the nicest people I know. He likes to play golf, and I love to play golf. So we get to play golf every once in a while, and he's just a very good person.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, just a real I always tell people who aren't from Illinois, you can't understand. Like he was like probably similar to how, well, obviously you, but then Marsteller too, kind of everyone just kind of knew who he was, right? And it's just like, man.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see him out there. And when you look at the staff, you have Cael, obviously, you have Coach Cunningham, you have Varner, Kennedy, and I know it's changed. There's been some other changes, but what do you think like the single biggest impact Cael's had on your career from when you got there as a freshman to now?
I would say that just the way that like practices are run has had a huge impact on my career. The coaches, they talk to us, and we talk about mindset a lot. I think that has that's a big deal. I think mindset is like one of the biggest aspects of wrestling. I think it's you obviously have to have the technique and the strength and everything like that, but if you don't have the mindset, then you can't like do any of it. So I'd say they've helped us a lot with that, and then just the practice structure has allowed us to peak at the right time and compete freely and everything like that. So I'd say definitely the way the practices are run. I don't think that a lot of teams do it the same way that we do it.
And is it would you say it's fair to say that kind of in wrestling the mentality is more is better, but Penn State maybe takes the approach that they try to kind of back guys off a little bit from the physicality of it, or is that not right?
Yeah, I mean they just do so much research and put so much effort into the planning, and based on like previous years and everything like that. What's been successful in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, what weeks do we compete the best, what weeks do we not compete the best, what do we do those weeks?
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a time to work hard and do more, and then there's a time to do less as well, and there's a time to give us freedom, and there's a time to do structured practices. And I think like the timing of that, like that's something like people talk about try not to give away like the Penn State secrets or whatever with like technique, and I'm like, the technique isn't even like a fraction of the Penn State secret. You know what I mean? It's all about who the coaches are, how they lead, how they run their practice, everything like that, how they treat the wrestlers and everything like that.
To me, it sounds like even ignoring anything wrestling related, just how these guys live their lives is an example for all the guys.
Yeah, I think it's easy to preach that you want your athletes to do something. You want them to eat healthy, or you want them to, not party. You want them to work hard. And if our coaches aren't doing that, then it'd be easy for people to be like, okay, well, you're not doing that, so why would I do that? But when they are doing it, it just gives us all the more reason to follow them and to do those things. So that's really, I mean, having the coaches wrestling with us every day, like they know how it is. They know what the training's like. So, we can, that allows us to build more trust with them and everything.
And when you talk about the mindset in wrestling, everyone talks about it, and there's different ways to do it. Like, how would you describe kind of your mindset going into practice back in your Penn State days, and what was preached?
I was just excited to play dodgeball. I'm like, I got to get to practice 45 minutes early in case we don't play dodgeball today, so that I can play early. And there's like 8 guys in there 30 minutes early, and we're all like, we're playing dodgeball, and that's like one of that gets me in the door, and that gets me excited to go to practice. And then once we're practicing, just being able to wrestle with high level guys and get better, and I try to always pick like guys that, well, there's certain times where I'll pick smaller guys, if I'm trying to like have a lighter day or anything or something like that. But my mindset is just to like, I have different goals for each practice. So focusing on those goals and trying to implement that, if I'm trying to work on, my hand fighting or my underhooks, then I'll focus a little bit more on that. Even if we're drilling like high crotches, I'll use my underhooks to get to my high crotches instead of a regular setup for a high crotch. So just trying to implement techniques and strategies going into practice. But I would say like, mentality wise, like why we're doing what we're doing. It's because we love it, because we want to do it. And, having gratitude in our hearts when we're competing and when we're training, that allows everything to be a little bit more fun too.
That's the key right there. You just broke it. Those last couple words is why we're doing it. And it's because they love it. It's not because of any result. And then the gratitude piece is, I've had Cael's father on, I've had one of his brothers on, and they all mentioned that, so, but you hear it and you're like, all right, well, when you interpret that, does it mean like you're grateful to be healthy, grateful to be out there wrestling with your brothers, grateful to be learning? Like, what does it mean to the wrestlers, you think?
Yeah, I think all of that. I think, when you can count your blessings, when you think about the things like even just writing down what you're grateful for, like I'm grateful for, these wrestling mats that we don't have to wrestle on dirt. I'm grateful for clean clothes, everything like that. And it allows you to complain less. Like, you see the people that complain the most are the people that are the least grateful. And I think the most grateful people, even if they don't, it's not whether they have a lot or they don't have a lot. I'd say even people that have a lot can be ungrateful and complain a lot. So it's not about what you have. It's about, how you view it, being grateful for what you have instead of, complaining about what you don't have or complaining about how somebody treated you. And, I think a big thing is not taking things personally. I think it's getting harder and harder, like each day and year by year, because of everything in the media. Everybody wants to take everything personally and argue, and when you're surrounded by that, it starts to have an effect on you. So like I would say, like, to anybody that's listening to this, if you're surrounding yourself by people that are complaining and taking things personally all the time, don't fall into it. I would say even try to like separate yourself from people like that, or just like talk to them about it. Be like, hey man, like, I don't think you should be like complaining this much, and you shouldn't be taking things that personally when people are saying that stuff about you, because it's not really like a personal thing. And I think like the less that we can stay away from, or the more we can stay away from like complaining and taking things personally, the happier we're going to be and the more grateful we're going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually there's this book that Tom Brady used to read every year at the end of the season, and it's called The Four Agreements. One of them is don't take things personally. And if you can get that, man, that's a big piece of it, right? Because that's
got to be one of the biggest, yeah.
Right. I mean, whether it's like in the context of the Patriots, it's Bill Belichick will tell it how it is, and even if you think he had a good game, he's going to shoot you straight, and it's going to hurt, right? And just like if my sales manager said something negative about how I did on a call, or even with you, I mean, I don't know how Cael and Casey communicate things to you, but I don't know if it's like that direct style, like a Belichick, where you can't take it personal, because then you're going to be spiraling every day.
I think some teams are getting worse because they're tiptoeing around their athletes, trying to like not hurt their feelings and stuff like that. I mean, that's a big part, like as a coaching staff, like if you have athletes that take things personally, you have to coach them differently, because you can't say stuff that is going to get them better, but then that athlete isn't going to get that. It's almost like
that's a spiral. That's bad.
Yeah. The athlete could get a lot better if they actually didn't take these things personally. But if I tell them this and they take it personally, then they're not going to compete as well. So I'm just going to not tell them. So it's definitely tricky. I mean, being coachable and, being an athlete that doesn't take things personally, definitely is going to help you compete a lot better and help your coaches help you more.
Absolutely. Wow. No, it's so I'm glad you broke that down a little bit, because that gives us a little bit more context into it. So if you're complaining, if you're taking things personal, that's not the Penn State way, period.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's just a few examples of things that we talk about. There's so many different topics, effort, attitude, doing things enthusiastically. But we're always talking about stuff like that. And so we're always reminded of it, even though like if somebody tells you that or tells me that, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I know that, like, that's the truth. You still might not, like believe it yourself. It's almost like a double think situation where you're doing something that's in direct like opposition of what you believe in, like thinking, like an example would be like, oh, I have to win to be happy, or I have to win so that people like me. Where in reality, that's not true, but you like force yourself to believe that. So like the more you can like train your mindset away from stuff like that and constantly put into practice day by day, the more it's like implemented into your actual lifestyle.
And it takes a while to hear it, right? It's not like you hear it once and you're good. Even for the guys in that Penn State room are lucky enough to be around those kind of leaders. Doing things enthusiastically, that caught my ear too. That's something you guys talk about?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think you can tell a lot of times when you're watching a wrestling match, you can tell who's going to win the match based on how they're wrestling, not based on what the score is, but based on like how they present themselves coming out on the mat. Are they smiling backstage, or are they like shaking with nerves? Not that nerves are a bad thing, but getting excited, like using your nerves as energy, and being excited about competing, and going out there and wrestling to score points and to dominate rather than trying to win a close match. When you focus on winning focus on winning more than you focus on like wrestling hard and wrestling enthusiastically, it's harder to win. So
isn't that weird?
Again,
right?
it's tough to like train, but like you said, the more that you're involved with it and the more you hear it, the more true it becomes for you. And I mean, it's the same thing with like with church. Like for example, like you go to church and you feel super inspired after church, but then if you don't go for another week, or if you don't live that in your daily lifestyle, you can start to like move away from that stuff, even though that's what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. Life's tough, but just staying disciplined and consistent with your training mindset and everything like that. It's really important.
Well, and like, we've covered a lot of deep topics here, but I think the main thing and why we love wrestling so much is you learn all these things in wrestling: gratitude, being enthusiastic, not taking things personal. You go outside of the sport, you're still going to dominate. Like those skills are going to help you anywhere, whether it's in your relationship, whether it's with your kids, in your business, whatever. That is definitely going to help you there. And that's why, no pun intended, wrestling changed my life. That's why I love kind of the sport, and what you're talking about is that it's so transferable.
Yeah, 100%. I see it in my business all the time. Having a team that I trust. We have a team of 4. So me, Gino Morelli, Eric Lundgren, and John Broughton. And we all trust each other and we share the same values with the Athletes Ocean and everything like that. So, being able to talk to each other about tough topics, if we're frustrated with each other, we can bring it up and not let things fester, and because a lot of companies fail because the owners have a falling out because they start to get frustrated with each other and they don't bring it up, things fester, and then it all blows up. So having a team that you can like talk through issues with and, use those skills that wrestling taught you to improve your business and to improve your relationships and everything is really useful. And, there's tough conversations to be had sometimes, but, wrestling definitely has helped me get through those, and, and our team is better because of it.
And we'll just sign down with this. So you mentioned your platform, you and your partner's platform. It's called Athletes Ocean, correct?
Yeah. So you can check it out at athletesocean.com. That's kind of our landing page. So you can learn about what it is and everything. And then the platform is app.athletesocean.com. And that's basically our social platform for technique. So, sign up there, and then you actually get a free instructional on my overtime snaps. So if you click the instructionals tab, you can see it right at the top there. And then there are other instructionals for sale from guys like Carter Strachey, Keegan O'Toole, RBY, Bo Nickel, ton of good wrestlers, Nathan Tomasello. So
is Carter
continuing to
is Carter as scary in person as he seems to these interviews in wrestling, man? He's an intimidating cat.
No, he's not as scary in person. I think that he likes to hype and everything, which is good. That's his personality. If you ask him in person, he'll still talk the same way, but he's a good friend, and as we like talking to him in person, like he goofs around and stuff. So but I think awesome. Like he definitely takes it to a new level with his Instagram captions and his interviews.
I love it, man. We need it in wrestling, and I'm glad he's doing it, and he can obviously back it up. So, but I think the main point is, folks, I know there's a lot of parents listening and a lot of kids listening. You can literally get Jason Nolf in your living room, Carter Srirachi, the Keegan O'Toole. I mean, I'd love to see what he's doing. He's got some really interesting things. So that's all going down on your platform, and you sign up app.athletesoceans.com. Athletesocean.com.
Yep.
Cool. Awesome,
yeah,
man.
You can search it on Google too, Athletes Ocean, and it'll be the first link that pops up. So
perfect. Is there an app as well, or is that coming?
Yeah, so there is an app, but you have to download it from Safari. So you basically press like the little share button at the bottom, and then you click add to home screen and click add. So that it's called a progressive web app. So this is getting kind of technical now, but yeah, it's super fast to download the app. But you know, if you go through the App Store, Apple takes 30% of all digital purchases. So we're going to be on the App Store eventually, but for now, we just stayed as a PWA.
Isn't that crazy? That little line item they put in, 30% of everything that goes through the App Store. That is astonishing. I heard someone else, it must have been a month ago, tell me that. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, well, Jason Nolf, I'll let you run to practice, man. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast. You're welcome back anytime. Anything you have related to your business, let me know, and we'll push it out over the platform here. And like I said, man, you're welcome back anytime. I can't wait to watch you at the U.S. Open.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, sir, man. Take care.